Hello everybody and welcome back to Blanche Case Fitness. It's Thursday, which usually means that it's a rest day, but today means that it's time for functional home fitness, where we do weight training using objects you can find around the house. And I have been very confused this afternoon. I was downstairs and just sort of chilling, and I was like, weird. I would have thought that my class alarm would have gone off already, but I guess it's not as late as I think it is. And then I finally actually looked at my watch and was like, oh, no, it's later than I thought it was. I just don't have any class alarms set for today because I don't usually teach today. So yeah, sorry for the slightly later than usual start. But I'm not used to teaching on Thursdays. But I'm glad you're here. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're charging through week 3 of April Powers. That's a different alarm. I've learned over the years that alarms can be a very useful tool up until the point when you start ignoring them. And so you have to switch things up sometimes just to make things a little bit fresher in your mind, or you have to be honest with yourself about alarms that are not serving a purpose. And that's a thing that I think can be really hard to acknowledge when you're like, no, this alarm is still useful. I just need to actually pay attention to it. And it's like, all right, well, you've ignored it the last 3 weeks in a row. Maybe the alarm is simply not serving the purpose that you hoped it would, and that's fine. There are so many other tools out there to look for. But for class, my alarms work great, and I kind of depend on them, which is why today I was like, where am I? What's going on? Oh yeah, I need to actually get the laundry detergent bottle and come upstairs with the water. But I hope your week is going well. Obviously, this isn't the end of the week yet, and thank you all for being willing to hop on a different day. And if you weren't able to make the live cast on Thursday, I hope that you are at least watching this VOD on Friday, because obviously the VOD will still be available. So you can still get onto Twitch at 6 p.m. Mountain Time on a Friday and just turn on the VOD for class, and it'll be like you were here. But yes, for anyone who is tuning in and is like, wait, they're not usually streaming on a Thursday, it's because tomorrow afternoon I get my second vaccine dose, and I'm super excited about it. And also, there's no way in hell I would be home in time to teach. And also I want to make sure that I am leaving myself as much flexibility as possible for potential side effects, so that if I am feeling, under the weather a bit afterwards, as my body gets its immune system into gear, then I have the opportunity to actually rest, which is why Saturday morning's class, the weekend kickoff, it's still currently scheduled for its usual time on Saturday. But I am reserving the right to move it to Sunday, depending on how I feel Saturday morning. Unfortunately, that's just a call that I'm really gonna have to make when I get up. I've heard most reports say that any symptoms beyond just injection site soreness show up about 12 hours in, which will be 3 a.m., 3:30 a.m. or something like that on Saturday morning. So I'm really just not going to know until I get up on Saturday morning. So I will let you know as soon as I can if I do end up moving it. Do I? Teeth stuff all the time. I do, in fact. Yeah, I'll let you know as soon as I can whether I have to move it to Sunday or keep it on Saturday. But I'm reminding people every chance I get, so that hopefully everybody knows, everybody is aware that I will not be teaching necessarily on Saturday, then I'm reserving the right to move it. And while still, you know, fingers crossed that class can just continue as normal, because that would obviously be the best case scenario. But we'll see. But it's Thursday because, you know what? We're in the middle of programming. We're in the middle of April Powers, and I was not going to get in the way of that programming. So here we are, just one day earlier than usual to do our week 3 of Functional Home Fitness. I'm super excited. I've really been enjoying how this program has been going over the last couple of weeks. So I am looking forward to seeing what today holds for us. And if this is your first time taking Functional Home Fitness, welcome. It is a little bit different than my other classes, which are primarily bodyweight classes. This is my only weight training class, but it is deliberately structured so that we do that weight training with objects that you can very easily find around your house, like, say, my giant laundry detergent bottle, which is basically my mainstay. If this is your first time doing this, make sure you've pulled together some objects, some equipment, and also just as a quick note, I've got sort of 2 advisories around class, one more specific to class, one more general to free weight training. So because we're using items that are not specifically designed as gym weights, they're not designed to be well balanced and to have the weight written nicely on the side, we can't load ourselves as deliberately as we can in the gym. So if this is your first time, err on the side of caution, err on the side of lighter items, go through one of the sets, and then at the end, you can make the determination, you know, I feel like I can add a little more weight on, or, ooh, actually that turned out to be just right, or even, I think I want to ramp it down a little bit. But as you do class, you will get a better sense of the items in your home that work well for weight training. So you don't have to like mix it up every single time. I've basically just settled semi-permanently on this detergent bottle for most things. Not everything. There are still some exercises that benefit from other equipment, but this is the big one. That's my mainstay, and like it's great because I understand how heavy it is. I understand how the center of gravity shifts around, so I know how to use it safely. So there is nothing wrong with sort of honing in on the items that work best for you. But when you're new, try a bunch of stuff out, okay? Bags are great for this because you can fill them with things, so it's easier to control the amount of weight. The other notification or advisory is more general to free weight training. So what I mean by free weight training is anytime you're doing exercises without a machine, but with freestanding weights. And in particular, when we're doing that with arm exercises, where like I would have a dumbbell in each hand and I would be moving the arms, you know, in tandem, but separately. They're not maneuvering the same weight together, but they both have their individual weight and they're moving it. We are not symmetrical creatures. We have stronger sides and weaker sides, and we have this tendency to think when we want to strengthen up our weaker sides, we have this tendency to go, okay, so, you know, a load based on the capacity of my stronger side, and that's going to help pump up the weaker side faster. That's not how this works. You always want to load based on the capacity of your weaker side, because your stronger side is not going to suddenly become less strong because it's using a slightly lighter weight than it is capable of using. But your weaker side, if it's trying to maneuver a super heavy weight that it is just not strong enough to maneuver yet, and you're going to have trouble controlling the weight, which means you're going to make unhealthy compensations, and it's going to put you in the path of injury. So many injuries happen because we're overloading ourselves, because we're like, well, obviously the only way to get stronger is to just keep upping the weight and upping the weight. And no, there are a lot of ways to build strength, And even if we want to take the approach of upping weight, that still is a process, and it has to be done deliberately, and it has to be done intelligently so that we don't hurt ourselves. So those are my advisories. That's my fitness friend says be safe and be smart advisory for today. So let's do our pre-class checklist. Voila, we got your water in whatever water bottle, large vessel, giant mason jar you carry it in. You've got your comfy clothes, whatever that means to you. You've got your mat or mat-sized space on the floor. And if you use a fitness wearable, we can turn them on right now. Not high-intensity interval training, but if you have a traditional strength training mode, that's what I use for this class. Because this class, we're going to do the warm-up, which is kind of HIIT, but after that, this is definitely strength training, not HIIT class. So, I think it's time to get going, my friends. It's very, I'm still feeling a little off kilter teaching today, but I'm excited. I'm excited because I wanted to make sure that I was able to teach this class, and, to be able to take this class. And I've already been having, a lot of experiences this week with realizing how much I need a rest week. So I am excited to feel the energy that I need for this class. All right. Where am I? What's happening? I think we're starting the warm-up. That's why I'm here on my mat. So, all right. Everybody on your mats, on your backs, 1 foot crossed over the opposite knee. And as soon as that horn goes off, we will begin with hip rocks and bridges. Hiya! There we go. Yeah. And in true Colorado fashion, much of the snow has melted. And it's interesting because it didn't actually get super warm today. It only got up to just past 50 degrees, I think. But it's so sunny. It's so sunny in Colorado that just a lot of the snow had melted just because of the sun. And before it had even heated up that much. But yeah, so we are on track to actually have a relatively warm weekend, which is always hilarious to me. Good old Colorado, just always trying to keep us on our toes. All right, switch feet. Speaking of keeping us on our toes, always trying to keep us on our toes, and I do very much enjoy it. It cracks me up that literally yesterday, I was going for a walk with a friend and it was snowing by the time we finished, and today it's where's the snow? Mostly gone. And that's just sort of how spring moves out here. And I don't mind it. It usually takes me a little while to get to the point where I'm okay, I really just do not want any more snow this season. I'm usually pretty okay with snow for most of the season. It was a little bit of a different story when I lived further up in the mountains, and a little more remotely. That was, when you live in a place where snow impacts your ability to leave your home, as it does with many out in the backwoods of the mountains houses, I think you have lower tolerances for snow that continues late into spring. So I definitely remember getting far more frustrated when I was oh my God, it's still snowing. The driveway is a mess again. And then it's all gonna melt and it's gonna make it a mess in a different way. So yeah, it's much nicer now that I'm out of the mountains, and also, you know, now that I am living a life that doesn't require me to leave the house on a daily basis, which is such a weird thing to think about. Such a weird thing to think about. Like, I don't leave the house on a daily basis. There are extended days in a row where I don't leave the house. And you know, it's interesting because in the before times, like, that kind of insular behavior frequently came hand in hand with worser periods in my mental health. And now it's like, no, I actually developed a really nice structure and routine in this space. It makes me feel safe and comfortable, and, you know, I'm socializing as much as I can. It's not that I don't want to be, it's that there are other giant world factors at play here. But I am very glad, you know. We have this tendency as human beings to try and find silver linings in things, and I don't think it's a bad tendency, because it helps us to develop a little bit of resilience towards painful or difficult years. And this has been a painful, difficult year. But I have developed some skills that I'm very grateful for, and one of them is increased care for the setup of my home space, and improved understanding of how to exist in it without feeling trapped by it, which is definitely something I've struggled with a lot over the years, and it's really nice to feel like I've turned a bit of a corner in that particular realm. And, you know, it's nice too, because the last time I worked like fully remotely, I struggled a lot with that setup and with understanding how to best, you know, balance and create barriers between my work life and my home life when both were taking place primarily in the same space. But I feel like now I actually have figured out a lot of those strategies, and so, you know, I'm going to be able to take that through the rest of my life, which is really awesome, because I will probably be in many remote positions over the years, and honestly, I kind of prefer it now, which is interesting. I had thought for a while that I would prefer sort of a hybrid approach, you know, a few days in the office and a few days working from home. And I don't hate that idea, but also I feel like I'm a lot more productive when I don't have to spend a lot of time commuting to another place just to sit down and work. And also just the comfort of being able to entirely control your workspace, and to be able to control the ways in which people, you know, seek to get your attention, which can be really challenging in some office setups. I worked in an open office setup for one job, and it was just absolutely miserable. It was the worst office setup I have ever experienced, because there was no way to have, there were no boundaries between people, and you need boundaries. They are actually important. You know, it led people to very disrespectful behaviors where they would just sort of walk up to you out of the blue and shove themselves in front of you and not really care what you were working on, and just be like, I'm stealing your attention now. And you didn't really have any control over it because there were no walls. It's not like they had, opened the door to your office or walked into your cubicle or anything. There was nothing in the way, and it was just really miserable. And I that was sort of the worst of the worst. And I do remember, earlier in my career, I worked in a cubicle situation, and I honestly found that to be a good middle ground. Not full control over all the space, but definitely a very clearly delineated area that was my area, and that people, because of that clear delineation, there was then a very clear understanding of, not just barging in, but touching base, seeing if people had availability for a quick chat. And that was a nice setup. I did enjoy that. It was also a very simple, walking commute, which I also really liked. The second that you introduce the need for a car into a commute, I would much rather just work remotely, I think. And, it's obviously possible, and the technologies, even just in the, 15 years that I've been in the workforce, the technologies have gotten better and better and better to the point where it no longer feels as weird and awkward to have, remote meetings. Like, early in my career, if you were working from home, you were calling in over the phone to meetings. And, that was always, you never felt like you were getting the full benefit out of the meeting, and that was kind of frustrating. But video calls have changed everything. Video conferencing software has just changed so much. And I do think, there are definitely a lot of challenging areas to it. There are definitely a lot of things that we need to better figure out. But I do think overall it is a boon, and will hopefully help us to continue to actually pay more attention to creating safe and healthy working environments that include people working from home. So yeah, I am glad for that. Would I have wanted to get these skills in the way that I got them? No, I think they could have been built up in other ways. I will take the valuable lesson. I will be glad that I got to figure it out, but I will never be glad that it came about in this manner. Oh my goodness. I keep thinking that it's Friday. See? I keep wanting to talk about the end of the week, but that is not where we are yet. We still got one day to go. And then we will have arrived at the end of the week. And I'm gonna put up a message tomorrow just to make sure that people aren't logging on being like, hey, where's the stream? That would be unfortunate. So you'll get just a little bit of a shift in your rest night. It means you get a nice little extra rest before week 3 class for weekend kickoff, which can be nice, gives you a little more time to replenish those glycogen stores, which is always important. So Take advantage of that time, huh? I am going to have to get some sort of a fan or something. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how best to ventilate this space during the summer because obviously there are audio quality questions that I have to answer. But also I can definitely tell that working out in this room is going to be very, very warm. You know, this is a top floor right under the roof, so it gets plenty of heat coming up through the house, which is nice. In the winter, that's great. But I'm not entirely committed to the idea of hot environment HIIT classes. Like, HIIT classes are already intense enough without introducing yet another qualification into them. So we'll see. Oh, yeah. I'm definitely feeling some hand impacts I'm gonna be paying attention to. Hopefully my impending post-April Powers rest week will help. And it's a good reminder to me to just like take it a little bit easy and give myself a little bit more of a break while teaching this week. But it's really frustrating. And again, we've talked a lot about this week already, so I'm not necessarily going to continue to flog this dead horse, but it's another reason why rest is such an important thing to build into our schedules and to honor, you know, to look at as a commitment rather than getting to a rest week and going, yeah, but I'm feeling really energetic, so I think I'm probably good to keep going, you know. Scheduling the rest weeks is step one. Following through on them is step two, and is arguably the harder thing to keep in mind. But it's so important. All right. Nice little warm up there. Feel the blood flowing. Little bit of a sweat starting to form. And that's going to be the most cardio we do today, obviously. And the rest of class will be nice strength class. Yes. I don't know why my fake Russian accent went going there, but it did. So here we are. We've reached it. Okay. And I like the functional home fitness class too because there's less than I have to explain. We're gonna have our 2-minute work intervals, and we're gonna be doing all of our reps at the beginning of the interval. When the horn goes, we do all of our reps of the exercise. And once we're done with those reps, take the rest of the timer and use it as rest. So drinking water, standing around, stretching out a little bit if you want to do that, making sure you're taking nice deep breaths, getting plenty of oxygen in there. And then you hear knock, knock, knock. That means you've got 10 seconds to get into position for the next exercise. and then you get going. All right? So, and I don't have to move forward that quickly because we've got a little bit of time before we need to get going. So I'm gonna drink more water because you know what? Hydration, super important. All right, so the exercises, we know them at this point. So I'll just really quickly remind you, the first two exercises are the same exercise, side 1, then side 2, and it's our lunge bent over row. So we take that lunge position, make sure you have the image of skis, so I don't have this foot directly behind the front foot. That's going to make my balance real tricky. So imagine that you have skis on and position your feet accordingly. You're holding the weight, making sure it's not dragging your shoulder down. Whoop, turn that off. Putting your hand on the knee for added stability, and then just rowing up and up. And so we do side 1, then we do side 2, then we do our ab exercise, our side to side crunch. So feet off the floor. Remember, we are moving the torso side to side, and that brings the weight with us. So I'm not moving the weight with my arms. My arms are not part of this. I am engaging the obliques. That twists my torso to one side and it brings the weight along with it. And then same thing to the other side, okay? That's the most important thing. That's how you actually get the oblique abdominal engagement. You're not moving the arms around. If you feel intensity and strain in the arms, then you're not doing the exercise correct, okay? And then fourth exercise is our wide squat. I just use a single heavier weight for this. If I was in a gym, I'd have you do 2 dumbbells, but it's harder to find 2 objects in your house that are the same weight and same shape. So often I will sub in just a single weight that's heavier, and we just squat down and up and down and up, and make sure your knees are going straight over your feet. And if you're having trouble with that, if they're trying to cave in, then turn your feet in a little bit, okay? And then you should be able to maintain that position more easily. Alrighty? So those are our exercises. This week, we are ramping up the high limit on our reps. So first week, you could do 15 to 25. Second week, you could do 15 to 30. Third week, we're gonna say 15 to 35, okay? And then fourth week is gonna be the biggest jump. All right, I'm not gonna tell you what it is yet, but so we're adding another 5 on. Honestly, no, nope, yeah, I'm sticking with it. I'm sticking with my guns. So 15 to 35 is the reps amount. That was a weird way to phrase that, but you know what I mean. So you cannot go higher than 35. And just keep in mind that the more reps you do, the less rest time you have. And that is a deliberate approach to upping the challenge rating. So it's a legitimate strategy. Just always be aware of it. All right, everybody, on your mats. Make sure you got your equipment. And as soon as you hear that horn go, we will begin with our first run of rows. Okay. And as I started last week's class with, an advisory that if I'm weirdly stilted counted today as I'm talking. Please don't mind me. It's because I'm trying to count at the same time that I am talking to you, and that is a hard thing to manage. All right, so I may sound a little bit like, why don't you just sort of keep coming in and coming out? And it's because I'm trying to do the exercise, count the number of reps that I've done, and also keep talking so that I can entertain you on stream. And that's a lot of things to try and keep in your head. Last week I got all cocky. I was like, oh, I think I'm getting better at this. And then this week I started back in and was like, hang on, this feels hard again. So yeah, it's just a lot of things. And multitasking is not actually something that humans are good at in the ways that we think that we are. So, you know, it stands to reason that when you're trying to do a bunch of things at once, something is going to give in that equation. Yeah, so in this equation, the thing that's going to give is probably my ability to talk like a normal person. I will maintain it as best as I can, but if I sound a little weird today, you'll know why. So as we're doing this exercise, I want to make sure that my core is engaged and I'm maintaining that nice flat back, and that just helps me to keep my stability there. And I want to make sure that I am controlling the lowering of the weight, okay? Because that's the hard part. You know, yanking the weight up is hard, don't get me wrong, but it is, you know, we put all that force in, and we're like, phew, exhale on the effort. Yeah, got there. Lowering the weight is more difficult because that's where gravity starts to try and step in and go, I see that you're trying to lower this weight to the ground. Would you like some help with that? We don't want some help with that. Gravity is going to do more harm than good, but gravity doesn't know this. So we have to really pay attention to lowering the weight far more, honestly, than we have to pay attention to rowing it up to the top of the position. And it's something that's easier to forget because it feels easier to let the weight down, right? So it's kind of similar to when you're going hiking. And, you know, we know how difficult going hiking is to get to the top of the mountain. We know that that's a struggle. But getting back down the mountain is actually just as difficult, but in a different way, because we have to pay attention to gravity, and if we let gravity take over too much of the process, we increase the likelihood that we're going to injure ourselves. And then, like, the manifestations of that are a little bit more, like, obvious to the human brain when you're doing something like hiking, where you're like, okay, well, I'm coming down the mountain. Depending on where I am, you know, a misstep when I'm trying to scramble down from a boulder, I could twist an ankle, I could break a bone, I could take a huge fall, like, So just sort of keep that thought process in mind when you are when you're lowering weights in these in the rows, because it's a similar concept. We need to make sure that we are not letting gravity take over the entire process. And it wants to. Gravity really wants to be your friend. And that's sweet of it. But also, it's not really looking out for your best interests. So, all right, here we go. Our last exercise in set 1. This is the exercise that I struggle with counting the most, which is interesting to me. I think it's because it's a slightly longer move, and it because there's a little bit of that extra time, I think it's easier for my brain to lose the thread of where it is in the exercise, whereas everything else has a little bit more finality to each part of the exercise. But yeah, whatever the reason, I hope I've done the correct number, because I definitely, and it started right away. Like, that was the funny thing. It started almost immediately, where my brain was like, where am I? What number am I on? Is this 2 or 4? I don't honestly know. And I don't have that problem with the other exercises. It's fascinating. So, let me know in chat if there are particular ones of these exercises that you find are more difficult to count. And I do think that the length of the sequence has an impact on how easy the exercise is to count. So I do think that ties in. But now we are in round 2. Oh my goodness. That is pretty amazing. All right, so we're back to our rows. And I am already feeling some intensity in terms of my arm fatigue. And oh man. Yeah. And remember too, this is a good thing for me to remind myself of, you do not have to do the same number of reps each time. It's a range. We've got a range for a reason. And, again, remembering that we want to make sure that we are maintaining the form. So, I know, really I'm pep talking myself right now. I know that you want to do the max number of reps each time, but when that starts to feel really hard, when you start to worry that you're losing the form a bit, don't keep going. And that's a hard thing to remember, my friends. It is so hard. I don't ever want you to think that I'm up here being like, yeah, just stop going, it's fine. Because we are adept at talking ourselves out of reducing the number of reps. We are very good at convincing ourselves that we should keep pressing forward and just work through the discomfort, work through the pain, and you know that we're not about that here in Blanche Case Fitness. We are instead about making sure that we are listening to our bodies and paying attention to what they're telling us. And that can be really hard. And, you know, the other thing to keep in mind is that we want to be doing the same number of reps on both sides. We want to keep that even. So, if you do one side of your rows and you're like, I need to only do 20 reps on this side, that's totally fine. Now you have to do 20 reps on the other side, okay? Keep it even. Even if the other side feels like it can go for longer. Even if it feels like it's not yet worn out, I still want you to stop. And if you notice that one side had a massively harder time with that than the other, then the next time you go back to do that set, don't do as many reps overall, even if you start with your stronger side, okay? Don't do the same number of reps, because you need to make sure that when you get around to your weaker side, you're not immediately pushing it into doing more reps than is safe for it, okay? And that is the lesson that I will continue to remind you of every day, every time that we do class. Oh no, get back here. It's the problem with using a detergent bottle as weightlifting. If you are also actively using that detergent bottle, you know, to get detergent out of it, you tend to get covered in a light film of laundry detergent by the end of class. And I'm really talking to myself here right now, because I noticed that it felt like it was still a struggle to get the full number, the max number of reps on my stronger side, but it was far harder on my weaker side. And next time around, I'm going to start with my dominant side, and I need to remind myself that I should probably do fewer overall reps for that set, and that's okay. All right? That is okay. You're not required to do the same. This is not like when I give you toe squats and I tell you that once you've chosen the number of reps, you have to do that same number of reps each time, all right? This is different. This is different. You can, in fact, change the number of reps each time you go through the exercise. And I encourage you to use that option and to really pay attention to whether you need that option, okay? So don't just dive in to every set and be like, well, obviously I'm going to do the full number of reps. Why would I do anything different? And for some exercises, you may know that you feel strong enough on them to do the full number. So, you know, when we do the core exercises, when we do these leg exercises, I know that I can do the full number and it's going to be okay. But with other exercises, I have to take a step back and I have to remind myself that I may need to not go all the way to 35 on the next couple of sets of rows. Maybe I only do 30. Maybe I only do 25, you know? It's a range for a reason. And we always, always, always need to pay attention to our bodies, okay? And I like to hammer this home a lot in functional home fitness particularly because a lot of us, myself included, didn't necessarily get good training in weights exercises. So my main fitness for most of my life has been dance. And, you know, there's not a lot of weightlifting in dance rehearsals, okay? So I needed to learn more about how to manage weights and how to safely select the amount of weight, determine the number of reps, and all that stuff. And I didn't have any training in it. And because I was doing, you know, group classes, taking, not teaching, this was before I got certified. Because I was doing group classes, you know, I wasn't working directly with a personal trainer who would be able to watch my form to talk to me about safer loading techniques and all that stuff. And so I ended up wildly exacerbating a shoulder injury a few years ago, and that has followed me ever since. And, you know, it's a lot better now because I started going to the chiropractor and got some good PT exercises, and then I started doing this more intensively, and that's helped a lot. But it could have been avoided entirely if my teacher had been able to have the time, or if I had found somebody who could, you know, just give me some good fundamentals in weight training so that I was not over there trying to just like one-up myself, you know, competing against myself because nobody else is paying attention. If I hadn't been over there being like, oh yeah, I can just, you know, ramp this up super intensely, that'll be fine. And spoiler alert, it wasn't fine. And, you know, now that is a part of my injury map. And that is something that I will be dealing with and working with for the rest of my life, probably. You know, I've done a lot of good work on it. It's a lot better than it was, but it's still really frustrating. And it follows me not only in fitness, but also just in my regular life, you know? When I feel super stressed out, my shoulder starts hurting, which is just annoying. You know, hands up if you are, like me, somebody who gets a lot of physical manifestations of stress. That is definitely something I have dealt with my entire life. And yeah, when you have old injuries, that frequently gets worked into your stress maps so that when you're stressed out about something or upset about something, the pain from those old injuries can flare up. Gotta run back, gotta get ready. Oh my goodness. All right, there we go. But yeah, so it's one of the reasons why I give those advisories before this class every time, because it is a lot easier to wander into a weight class like this and not have that experience, but to just think that you can dive in and be like, all right, cool, you know, I got this, and I'm gonna really challenge myself too. I'm gonna go for this huge weight that I can barely hang on to, let alone maneuver through the air. And a lot of that approach, I think, could be avoided or mitigated if we just had better training for people, you know? Like, I envision a world where if I ever owned my own gym space, I would probably consider highly, like, doing some, you know, like when you go to a rock gym, you have the opportunity to climb, yes, but only after you've demonstrated that you know the basic safety techniques, you know how to tie in to your harness, and you know how to belay somebody up a wall and how to catch them if they fall off, and you know the commands that you need to give to one another to make sure that you're all safe and prepared. And, you know, it's great and it's necessary that we do that for climbing gyms. But I think that honestly, we should have something similar for regular gyms, you know, making sure that somebody is going through equipment with new people and watching form and making sure that they know how to use the different types of weights. You know, I don't know if I would ever be able to get anyone to buy into this, because I feel like I could also definitely envision a lot of people being like, yeah, well, I know what I'm doing. Why do you insist on making me demonstrate it to you? Then again, whenever I go to a new rock climbing gym, I have to take that test again, and I don't get to be like, I've been climbing for years, just take my word on it. So yeah, just something I'm thinking about, because, you know, we don't know what we don't know. And we see so many cultural representations of weight training. And, you know, machines, at the very least, have laughably useless pictorial diagrams on them to be like, this is how you use the machine, you understand this, right? But, you know, we should be taking care of people more and training people better, because, you know, we know that a lot of people haven't used weight room equipment since high school, and that even in high school they probably didn't use it a ton, and they probably didn't get a huge amount of training on different types of equipment. And I mean, yeah, you have to pay attention. You have to learn these things. We don't just magically know how to safely weight train. And it's still something that I feel like I have a lot to learn in, because again, that's not where the majority of my background is. So yeah, it's hard for me to like look at how many totally preventable injuries people suffer through because we don't take the time to say, hey, I'm just going to go through these basics with you, this foundational layer with you, and then have you demonstrate back to me just so that I know that I feel confident that you understand how to safely load yourself, how to safely pick up weights and put them down again to minimize the chance of injury to yourself or to other people using the space. Like, it's a common courtesy thing and it's a safety thing, you know? So yeah, there we go. These are my musings. So if we ever have a Blanche Case Fitness gym out in the real world, it is entirely likely that there will be some sort of a requirement for just demonstrating your knowledge of the equipment and making sure that I feel confident that you will be able to use it safely. I would consider owning a gym. I don't know, but I do like the idea sometimes. You know, and obviously, like, it's hard because there's so many fitness spaces out there. It is such a saturated market. I mean, I live in Boulder, so it's even more saturated here because this is an area of the country where a lot of people are really heavily focused on physical fitness. So, like, you know, some places have a Starbucks on every corner. Feels like Boulder has a gym or a climbing gym or a boutique fitness place on every corner. You know, so I wouldn't necessarily want to open a gym unless I was sure that it was serving a useful purpose in the community, you know? And I do think that there is an argument to be made for building a space that is really focused on safety and is focused on making sure that everybody is set up to succeed and to not injure themselves, and making sure that they understand the use of the equipment and all that stuff. I think there's definitely an argument to be made for that. But yeah, I just want to make sure that I felt really confident that it was going to serve that purpose, right? And not just be yet another weird little small fitness space. Like there's like, at least I live in like such a tiny area of the greater Boulder sphere, and there are still so many random old gyms and fitness places here in it's like, oh, okay, like how many people are actually going to all of these different fitness places? Who knows? But yeah, just musings, you know. This is all a lifelong process. It's a lifelong learning process. And you know, the fact of the matter is too, even if you have been weight training for your entire life, the research evolves and updates, and our knowledge of the body's capabilities and the safety protocols that we should be using changes over time. So, you know, even if you have been doing weight training since high school, there is still plenty more to learn. And I think that's really cool, that there is always going to be more information for us to find. And That's really awesome. But it's also important to remind ourselves of that fact, because it can be really easy for us to just go, well, I've been doing this for X number of years, so I know everything I need to know, and that's all there is to it. And that's never going to be true for any profession, frankly. Every profession, there's always going to be more to learn. There's always going to be new information to take in, and it's important that we keep that open mind and that we remind ourselves that we don't know everything. We are not the be-all and end-all repositories of knowledge. And honestly, it's really freeing when you can remember that and just be like, that's a weight off of my shoulders. I don't need to have all the answers. It's impossible for me to have all the answers, and that's nice. Somehow, we've made it through the entire set. I'm letting the timer run out so that everybody has the full amount of time, but there was our 10-second warning, which means soon we will have that beautiful final horn letting us know that we are done. Yeah! All right. Yeah. That was intense. That was intense. I'm pretty proud of myself. I did 2 35 rep sets on the arms, and then I had to drop down the number of reps I was doing because I was definitely I was feeling that fatigue. And that's the thing, a lot of ramping up is a balance between amount of weight and amount of reps. And, you know, I'm using an amount of weight that I am really confident using that amount of weight to do 25 reps, say. Anything above that gets a little dicier, and that's just something that I know about how I can and can't ramp up. And that's cool to know, you know? Like I said earlier, this is giving me more like useful data for my own process of trying to ramp up and challenge myself with weight training specifically. Before I get too comfortable here, let's just do super quick stretching. So let's just do our standing quad stretch. So take that foot into your hand, pull the heel into your butt as close as you can, holding on to a wall or a bookcase or something stable, just so you don't have to, again, we don't want to split focus when it's at all avoidable, okay? And trying to focus on balancing at the same time as intensifying and deepening this stretch. Like, it's obviously doable, and if you feel confident doing it, go for it. But I generally recommend that you have a hand on a wall or a counter or something, just because it just takes the pressure off. It takes the added pressure of worrying about the balance out of the equation, so you can focus in on the stretch, on the quad stretch, because that is what we're actually going for here. That's what we're actually trying to achieve, right? So, all right, and then let's just stand on our mats. Ooh, definitely feeling some tightness in the shoulders. Oh man, so let's just let our arms swing back and forth, and I'm not like violently shoving them back and forth. I'm using a little bit of momentum, but I'm not trying to, you know, like that. And then let's take one arm out to the side, across the chest, grab it just above the elbow, pull that upper arm into your chest as close as you can, get that nice stretch in the shoulder and going into the tricep. And just breathing And feeling that stretch, and then release. And other side, other arm up and across. And there we go. Getting that nice little stretch in. All right, and release. We're gonna do one more shoulder stretch here. So let's clasp our hands, our fingers together behind our back, and then lean over from the hips, bring the arms with us, and then once they hit a certain point, this is where gravity gets to actually take over for once. Oh my goodness. So gravity gets to pull the arms down towards the floor, intensify that shoulder stretch, and it also is going to pull that torso down a little bit more, so you get a bit of a hamstring stretch as well. That's 2 stretches for the price of 1. Now make sure that your knees are not locked. You want a little bit of a bend in them. They don't need to be fully bent, but there's a difference between, oh, my knees can't go anywhere, and okay, they feel a little movement is possible. All right, and then just roll on up. Oh, and just roll your shoulders backwards and forwards. And then circle your arms, big circles, backwards and forwards. There we go. Just enjoying everything that our shoulder range of motion has to offer, because it's a lot. All right, my friends, I think that is good. Oh, that was so fun. That was so fun. I'm really, really enjoying our functional home fitness April Powers programming. And, you know, in many ways, you have more, person in your living room taking class with me, have more control over this ramp up. You get to control the number of reps that you're doing. You get to control the amount of weight that you're using. And this just gives you a month where you can really deliberately put some attention to that. And, you know, come to class every week and be like, okay, all right, so last week on these exact exercises, I was able to do this number of reps this many times. What do I want to try for this week? Or do I want to keep the reps the same, but maybe up the amount of weight? And, you know, you get to play around with that. So there's a lot of creativity. There's a lot of creativity that can go into weight training and strength training like that. And, you know, why should I have all the fun? Believe me, I get plenty of fun in the other classes where I'm definitely far more in control of what we're doing. But it's important for you to learn those skills as well, you know, particularly in a streamed class setting like this, where we aren't in the same room together. So I don't get to, you know, give you personalized advice, and I don't get to, you know, look at your form right then and there. So one of the best things that I can do for you is to impart as much information about the tools that I have learned over, you know, 36, almost 37 years, so that you can start incorporating them and take a little control, you know, and at the very least, just know how to keep yourself safe, you know, because that's the thing, right? There's so many different classes we can go to and gyms and activities we can try and all of that stuff. And it's really wonderful. And I recommend getting out there. Fitness advice bot. Oh my God. You're so right. You're so right. Who do I talk to about this? There's so many activities to try, and I really recommend trying lots of things and finding things that you love. But it's also important for you always to know and feel confident in that knowledge about your body, about its strengths, about its weaknesses, about its injury map, and about modifications that you may need to make to certain exercises, or exercises or movements that you just can't do or have to work up to, you know? Don't ever let some random class teacher give you the old boot camp approach and yell at you and shame you into doing an activity that you know is not good for you. Okay? Don't do it. No, we're not drill sergeants over here, and whoever came up with this idea that that was somehow a better way to fucking teach, just, you know, they're in one of those circles of hell. Yeah, y'all know that this is one of my big, you know what really grinds my gears? This shit. So yeah, I wanna give you as many tools as I can, because I want you to feel comfortable, and I want you to feel like you have control and you have knowledge, you know? And then sometimes we don't want that overall control. Sometimes what we really need is somebody to just tell us what to do. And I'm here for that as well. Absolutely. You know, and you're getting a mix this month, I think. Oh my goodness. All right, my friends. Oh, the clouds are beautiful tonight. Just like lovely and soft. Lots of blue sky, deepening blue sky poking through. Maybe it is actually spring, who knows? Oh my goodness. But thank you all so much for joining me today. I know it's a little weird to have class on Thursday, but I'm really glad that you were able to make it. So we do have one more class this week. It is going to be the weekend kickoff, our awesome strength and stamina focused body weight class. Its usual time is Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Mountain Time. That is where it is currently scheduled. Depending on my reaction to my second COVID vaccine dose, I may reschedule it to Sunday. So if it's just check Twitter. Twitter or Facebook is going to be the place to check. I will post. I'll know probably as soon as I get up whether or not I can teach on Saturday or whether I have to move it to Sunday. So just keep an eye on those spaces, and I will let you know as soon as I know. We will have the class one way or another. It just may be on Sunday instead of Saturday, but I will let you know as soon as I can. And either way, I hope you join me because it's a good class, and it's going to round out week 3 of April Powers, which is just wild. How are we already here? I don't know. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All those handles will be in my end cards, but they are all variations on Blanche Case Fitness. My YouTube channel is where I upload all the VODs from these streams, so you never have to miss a class, even if you can't make the live cast. So definitely head over there and subscribe. If you want to help support me financially in making these streams, I have a Coffee account for one-time donations, or you can subscribe to this channel if you can support me on a longer-term basis. And either way, your donations are very much appreciated. And if you want to help me keep growing this channel and this community, then please tell your friends, loved ones, co-workers, anyone looking for an awesome class. I stream 4 days a week. We have a wonderful community here. We're having a great April Powers. And if you're looking for a fitness class that hopefully makes you feel pretty empowered about your fitness and about taking care of yourself and using exercise as part of a holistic package that also includes rest and caring for ourselves in those ways, then this is the space for you. For now though, finish off that water and make sure to refill it and drink some more. Make sure to start replenishing those fuel stores. Take that triumphant post-class shower. Wish me luck in my very long drive tomorrow. And I will see all of you back here again on either Saturday or Sunday. Have a great night.